we've kind of tested multiple different segments and verticals to kind of see, where do we fit best. And today, if somebody, we've worked with Googles of the world, and we've worked with the entrepreneur, like fresh startups, and we have a service that fits all sizes. But I'd say where we really have our sweet spot is companies that are like Vari.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, this is Max Pittman from WriteForMe, and you're listening to another episode of the Business Ninjas podcast, where we meet the experts who are making things happen and scaling their businesses. And today we're talking about Varidesk with Mr. Matt Snyder, who is the VP of Online Retail at Varidesk. Thank you so much for joining us today, Matt.
Hey Max, great to be here. Appreciate the invitation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm familiar with Varidesk. I'm very excited to dive into Varidesk. It's in kind of and I don't want to put you guys in a box. What would you say actually the industry that Varidesk is in?
Yeah, great question. So, I'll kind of go back to kind of a genesis of our company. We start off as many people know us as Varidesk, and our founders came up with this great invention to allow you to go from a standing position or sitting position to a standing position. So we grew a great brand and product under the name Varidesk. We really focus on a direct-to-consumer type of approach. Today, we actually have rebranded. We're now known as Vari, and we provide office solutions to customers. So we really would try to focus on not just providing a solution that fits you today, but really we focus on the flexibility. So how does your office space grow and adapt with you as a business? So we provide product solutions from desk to lighting to walls to as well as services with that as well too.
Very cool. Yeah. So yeah, familiar with the brand, and I got to get me one of these Varidesk. I'm not gonna lie. So maybe we can chat about that later. But I'm also in the office solution space, been around for a while, and so I'm definitely excited to see what you're focusing on as the director of online retail at Varidesk. But before we jump into just a little bit more into the organization itself, I do want to let the Business Ninjas community know a little bit about who Matt is, and our listeners are definitely entrepreneurs, executives like yourself, sales and marketing leaders. So as the director of online retail there at Varidesk, tell the Business Ninjas community a little bit about yourself and some of the things you're focused on.
Yeah, so I've been in this e-commerce space since about 2008, so I've been around for a little while. Over the years, I've kind of had different focuses. Originally got started with it was a fun retail site back in the day called Woo.com. So at Woo, we were a daily deal business. We had a lot of fun, had sold a lot of products. We really had fun around creating stories and how do we engage with customers through storytelling to around building a community. We were acquired by Amazon in 2010. So I worked with Amazon for 3 more years, and then kind of migrated over into helping other brands find opportunities to grow their businesses on Amazon. So I was fortunate to meet the founders of Varidesk at the time, Jason McCann and Dane Flaherty, and they had this massive growth of business on the DTC side, and they were looking for opportunities to expand that onto the Amazon platform. So joined Varidesk at the time and back in 2017, and have been with it now the last 6 years, really focusing on a couple different verticals, primarily around the Amazon space. So we kind of break up our e-commerce into 2 channels. So online retail, which is where I'm over charge of, and our e-commerce. So e-commerce really focuses on our direct web store, so our Vari.com. And for Vari.com, that serves across the US, Canada, Australia, and Europe today. On our online retail is all of our other third-party non-direct channels. So Amazon's obviously one of our biggest partners, but we also work with Office Depot, WB Mason, CDW, and a number of others, Walmart.com as examples. So as is this, what we try to provide is that we know the customers have their preferred channels. And so we try to really present the brand and the products in a unified approach across all of our platforms. Well, we want to make the products available to the customers based upon where they prefer to shop, but also trying to make sure we have that brand experience and price points, shared and balanced across all marketplaces.
Gotcha. So it seems like kind of a natural transition from you going to the big giant at Amazon to seeing maybe a gap that you could potentially bring your expertise to a brand to help them grow their presence on a platform like Amazon. So I love kind of hearing like your story and what led you to where you are today. And you've been at the company for about 6 years, and I know you've held a few different titles there. But like, tell me, I guess, a little bit about like the origin story behind like VeriDesk. Like, how and when did the company start?
Yeah, this is a really great story for entrepreneurs out there. So the story started back with our sister company that's still operating today. It's a company called Jimmy. Most people have never heard of Jimmy, but I promise everybody has either owned or familiar with their products. So the founder, Dan Flaherty, and Jason McCann was the president of Jimmy for a number of years. They were the creators of the big mouth Billy Bass talking fish. So everybody's like favorite novelty back in the day, the talking fish on the wall. That was like their first really big hit, and it kind of brought them onto the scene in this kind of the novelty product space. From there, they really grew, and today where they are, the number one leader in the market is holiday yard inflatables. So everything from the Christmas lights to everything you see at, if you would shop at Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, and you buy, your neighbors that have that giant Santa Claus every year Christmas. Well, you can thank Dan and Jason for those products at Jimmy. And so Dan had sag problems, and so he, talked to his son. You're sitting too much. You really need to start standing and moving, getting more movement throughout the day. And so he went from his desk to like literally putting like a cardboard box on top of his desk and working off a cardboard box. And the company, obviously, they're fantastic product innovators and very creative. And like, okay, if we can do better than a cardboard box. At the time, the only thing that was out there were these, really expensive, bulky, kind of either like a crank desk or something like that would allow you to sit and stand. So they had this idea of like, what could we do to just take my existing desk and be able to make that into a standing desk? And that was kind of the idea of the original, VeriDesk product. They took it to a couple of local companies. We're fortunate where we're based out of. We have, the Container Stores just up the road, Mary Kay's up the road. And so Dan and Jason had some good contacts. They went and showed it to a couple of different, friends in the industries, and the feedback was automatically just overwhelming. Like, they loved it, especially for a business user where you had a whole suite of offices that had these traditional desks. To make that transition to a standing desk was be very costly. So this was kind of a low cost approach to providing their business or their employees a standing desk option. It was also just perfect timing that right as this product came out, there was this big slogan of "Sitting is the new smoking."
Yeah.
So everyone was just aware of this need of like, okay, being sedentary all day long in my office is really, it's bad for my back, it's bad for my health. How can I get more active? So what started as a D2C product, and grew rapidly, started to go through these phases, and it turned into this, how can we just get a product into somebody's hands, knowing that if Max brings it into the office and he starts using it, everyone's like looking around like, whoa, what's Max doing? Like, why is he standing? And how, like, what does he have over there? And then they see the VeriDesk, and then they walk over to the HR department like, hey, I want one of these VeriDesk. Can you help me get one of these? And so we started getting calls from the different customers and companies that were buying our products. And so we kind of shifted from this D2C to more hybrid of a B2B approach. Still very much D2C. That's where we were like all of our lead generation and development's coming on the D2C side. We started hiring out, but out more of us B2B sales internal team. So how do we get the Mary K's into a contract pricing and growing it that way? And so still really just focus on the product cycle of it. We had a very limited catalog at the time. And I'd say then in like 2019 is when we kind of had this other kind of shift of how do we take our product line and expand beyond just this standing desk. We see the need that people are sharing, that they love the flexibility of our desk to be able to take this, put on their desk, allow them to sit or stand. There's other needs outside of just that today. So we started approaching how do we take this idea and this model of direct to consumer growing to B2B sales and build this into a different way of buying office furniture and a different way of thinking about how to use your office space. And it turned into this of a, let's say, more of a service-based company today. So we actually did a rebrand in 20, talk about timing, February of 2020, literally like weeks before offices shut down and everybody goes home. It was when we made our rebrand. But we really have held true to the vision here because we think that it is going to be we're going to be well positioned for the future of as people are getting back into the office. The offices that everybody left back in 2020 are not the offices that people are going to return to today. So we really trying to position ourselves so that an office space is flexible and adaptable to the use and the needs of the customer. So we really try to find or work with companies that we can work with them directly with, well, oftentimes it's with the leadership where they're trying to figure out how do I provide the right value or services to our staff to get them back into the office. So how Vari can provide that is not just static row of desk and very fixed cubicles. It's how do we have collaborative workspaces? How do we have these soft seating areas where you can go and kind of have your own personal space? But what we try to focus on is providing flexible workspace solutions so that the office you have today isn't the office you have to have tomorrow. So we really design a lot of our products around ease of assembly and ease of flexibility. And so today it's kind of gone, to the third phase of really being our one-stop shop to where if you guys are looking to build out your office space, and we can come in with our design services with the full suite of products, the installation, and do the full service. But at the same time, for those who are still working at home, we still have a great solution for those customers as well from our product catalog. So it's been a fun journey over the last 6 years to kind of see this D2C one product that's just was phenomenal success, and be able to take that and stair step and kind of evolve with the company to get today where we are, one of the leading office furniture providers with I think 300 plus products. So it's been a fun journey over the last 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like what I've been hearing. We're innovation, we're collaborative, and then there's health and productivity benefits that as well that are being focused when you think about like flexible office solutions. Like that's kind of what I'm hearing. And it's so interesting, such an interesting story to hear too about like the origins, right? Like that's even during COVID, like I didn't have a standing desk. I was using shoe boxes as Jason was, to like put my laptop up here, and I was like, well, I need to figure something out myself. This isn't, I can't do this, right? So I love that. And like there's been so many other inventors who just like figure that out as well. Like they had that aha moment. I'm sure that's kind of what Dan and Jason were going through around that time. And yeah, there's really nothing out there, right? It's all sedentary back in the early mid 2000s. Like there's no really standing desks out there. So it's super interesting to hear that piece of the pie and what you guys are focused on. Also, it sounds like what you brought to the table as well. You kind of have taken them from still focused on B2C, obviously, but even more of a B2B focus. It probably wasn't like this before you joined. And so, with your e-commerce experience, that sounds like really what you're bringing to the table. And then, just kind of wrap up what I heard, like, kind of what your secret sauce is obviously your ability to innovate and provide flexible solutions, right? But you also sounds like have a very full suite of services that you're providing in addition, obviously, just the furniture, right? So would you say like that's a bit of your secret sauce on the B2B side? Like why would someone choose you over a different, office solution?
Oh, great question. This is certainly one of the areas where I think Vari stands out from the rest of the competition. So Dan and Jason, through kind of their experiences over the years, they had dealt with the kind of the more traditional office experience if you were buying furniture. And so generally the way it would work is, you would first work with a kind of a dealer, and then you're going to get a designer involved, and then maybe at some levels an architect. So you've got these like different verticals, and it's not a one-stop solution. So you're working with this partner, and then you have a separate partner and a third, and sometimes a fourth. And at the end of it, like it wasn't this really clarity to the customer of what's your actual cost on this? Because along each step there, somebody's getting paid for it. And so we saw this as a way of what we took from the D2C side of the value we got there was being so direct with the customer and hearing the customer feedback and understanding what was the real benefits and values of our products and the services to them was invaluable to us. So we didn't want to give that up and going to the traditional office furniture market of working with a dealer who then is the in between us and the customer or the designer. We really wanted to provide that directly to the customer. So today, the where you would generally have to work these different verticals at Vari, we provide all those. So, when you're working with our sales team, they're going to bring in our space planner. Our space planner is going to sit down and work with not just the customer, but also our sales team. And then we're going to bring in our operations and our install team. So it's this one-stop shop to where you get all those services in one. And then we're very clear on the pricing. You don't have these gigantic markups of prices to then show you like, wow, you're getting 30% off because, the reality is they mark it up to mark it down. And we really find that providing transparent pricing, both on the products as well as the services, and ensuring that the services are top notch, is that value add. And probably the one that's most valuable to our customers is the speed of delivery and service. So generally, an office furniture manufacturer doesn't carry a lot of inventory. So when you place your order, you could be looking at 3 months, 6 months, or greater to have that installation. Now with Vari, we keep our product in stock and available to ship. So we generally say within 2 weeks from the start of your conversation, we can start having design plans, and in some cases even installation. Also, that's going to kind of vary on the size and scope of the project. But it's the speed of service and delivery. So if you need something immediate, our team can get started and have you in your office space, in a much quicker turnaround than the traditional office space service
Very
today.
cool. Love it. Yeah. So thinking about like the traditional way to design an office, there's multiple people, multiple partners, multiple projects, no transparency as well. Do you guys kind of connect the dots to start doing everything from this process pretty much in house, and also save your customers money and time on the back end? So that's kind of what I'm hearing, and it sounds like you guys probably go after specific verticals. I'd love to understand like who you guys work really well with. Is it with specific industries? Or are you guys going after maybe even commercial real estate? Like, what's the focus for that B2B perspective?
Yeah, great question. When we've kind of tested multiple different segments and verticals to kind of see, where do we fit best. And today, if somebody, we've worked with Googles of the world, and we've worked with the entrepreneur and like fresh startups, and we have a service that fits all sizes. But I'd say where we really have our sweet spot is companies that are like Vari, where they maybe they're in the early stages still around that 50 to 100 employees, or today like where we are, we're 350 employees. But really, it's where we can get engagement with executive leadership to help them understand like what the value of creating this flexible and high energy workspace does for their staff, right? That's harder to do at the enterprise levels. Yeah, it's easier to do that when we can talk with a high growth company and share and really help them understand the value that is not just having a desk. It's really about providing a workspace that one draws people into the workspace, but then also creates those opportunities for collaboration, and also that flexibility. So knowing that if you have a company of 100 today, the plan is you're going to be growing this company, you're going to be bringing in new people, and so you need to have that adaptability and flexibility within your space. And so our products do a great job of providing that, and we could share that value to the leadership. That's really what grabs them, and they see the partnership that we bring to them of we can be your solution today and continue to help you evolve every 6 months to a year. And that's what's exciting now is we're having conversations with clients who we did installs a year ago, and they're coming back and saying, man, we've had great growth for the last year. We need to like relay out our space. Our team can come back in, take the changes, the staff changes that you guys have, or maybe there's sales projects you have, or initial projects where like now we really want our marketing and sales team to be together, or we're going to do a big relaunch of our web store. So we want our web store and our technology team really sitting close together and working and collaborating together. Like it's hard to do this type of changes in our traditional layout or approach, but with our products and our services, those are easy solutions we can help provide to the customer over the growth of their business. So
It makes sense. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of competition out there in the space now too, right? As we talked about, and, especially in the e-commerce space, right? So, sometimes it's probably even like heavily commoditized, right? So how do you guys, or at least how do you, think about, your position and, elevating your brand story? Like, tell me, I guess, a bit about that marketing strategy for educating, those executives you guys are trying to target.
Yeah, a few different ways that we've done that, and I'd say the best is what we have found is like being in in those communities in those markets and having that presence is the best way to do this. So over the last few years, what we've been investing in is building out sales teams in areas where we see high concentrations of entrepreneurial growth or high growth companies. So today we have roughly about 13 different markets where we are focused on. We have sales teams, suites in these locations, and what we find is it's getting these sales teams involved and with the community. We do that through one of our programs is the Very Giving program. So we try to find opportunities within those communities to engage by giving back, whether that's working those nonprofits to do build outs for them or help subsidize their the office needs that they have. But that kind of synergy then creates opportunities for our sales teams to get involved with either the local chambers or the local influencers in those space, right? A lot of this gets driven, by small concentration of people in a city, and so it's getting involved with those influencers then to find the opportunities. So that's, I would say, really what we have found is to kind of be the secret sauce right now is how do we get established brand, kind of we'll go back to where we started as a D2C. It was really, these national campaigns, TV commercials talking about the product specific. And today it's more of understanding the values of each market. How do we market those specifically and really cater to the needs of those markets?
So it sounds like a little bit of social is probably there in the mix and kind of getting established in those markets, would you say?
Exactly. And we try to have events. I'd say, what really is the driver for us is, and the kind of helps close those deals is we can get the customer into one of our spaces. Also, if you could walk into our space in Coppell, Texas, and it's like what we can tell you about the value and the quality of the products, but once you actually see it and you get to walk in the space and feel the energy of the people working, but then also just see the simplicity of the designs and the flexibility of it, that really tells you the full story. And so by being able to have our showroom spaces across these different markets, we can't bring everybody into Dallas area, but we have these spaces now where we can have local events and get the influencers or get the customer, an opportunity to see how that office space really works and lays out. And once they see that, that's really what helps us close the deal.
So there is an element then to physical locations, brick and mortar in the 13 markets you mentioned.
Correct. Yeah. So within these spec suites, we have a smaller version of what we have here and our headquarters in Coppell, but again we use those for not just our teams, but the whole different events and opportunities to bring other community people and influencers into those spaces.
I love it. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, so definitely something like you need to kind of see, test out. It's always hard to kind of do this kind of stuff online, and the return process is probably a very difficult, inexpensive.
Not immediate. Yeah, it's not immediate. Yeah.
It's not like I bought a pair of shoes and I didn't like them. I can just return them. It's definitely
Yeah.
more expensive
Yeah.
process.
And that's very, especially you look over the last 2 years, 3 years really of when we first kind of made this pivot, jump into the markets. It's been we've obviously had plenty of headwinds, and so it's really being staying to the course and being true to that. One of the first markets we got into was DC, and we are really just now starting to see the reward of those investments that we've been making over the last few years. So it's taken some time to see the full return on that, but what we're seeing now is really positive signs that we're in the right space at the right time with the right service.
So, that kind of brings me to my next question. Like, how are you guys thinking about growing, right, and scaling the business? What are some of the things you guys are focused on? I guess maybe even from the online retail perspective. I'm sure there's probably revenue metrics. So, what's the top?
Yeah, so we kind of maybe just kind of break this up a little bit. So we focus on the online retail side or e-commerce side. It's really different from our corporate sales side in terms of where our focuses are. On the e-commerce side, yeah, the challenges we have there is we've had a lot of new competition come on. Where where we were a few years ago, we were definitely the market leader. We had this great brand, had a great brand story, and so we were able to capture a lot of market share. Now, today, as more competitors come into the space, it's commoditized to where like there's a lot of lower price desk in the office space, and or you look at Amazon or wherever else. So it's hard for us to compete. So that's where we really have to lean in and focus on what are the benefits and value adds we bring to a customer when they buy a desk from Vari versus a desk from one of our competitors. So really leaning into our content and our storytelling from our brand to help bring the customer up to our price point. I'd say more than ever, like that's the most critical piece for us today is how do we get that content piece right. And so on Amazon specifically, there's been some really great tools that Amazon has brought over the last couple of years where we can focus in on building out our brand store, building out A+ Premium, and release these enriched media that we can share on Amazon. I would say brand store is probably one of the most critical pieces, and that's one that's often overlooked by a lot of sellers or brands on Amazon. But the challenge there is that when you have a customer on your shopping page, you're littered with just these other competing products, and trying to like all this noise of trying to distract customers from to other product listings with lower pricing. But when we can take that customer and get them into our brand store and really tell a product story or our brand story, we've seen a much better return on those investments. So, I'd say that's been one of the biggest investments we've made over the last year is into our brand store as well as our enhanced media there. And likewise on our brands, on our Vari.com, one of the big initiatives we've had with this last year is how do we also provide a B2B experience for those customers who are coming to our web store and but they need a little bit different experience or checkout or payment opportunity based upon their purchasing needs. So we've been putting a big focus into how do we allow them to do those type of bulk purchasing, have their contract pricing, and share those right across their entire suite of employees. So also those are very different than when you get to our corporate sales side, where it's a different focus within our how do we share those value services are more focused than on the service side of it, the speed of service, and a much more broader focus on our product selection versus our e-commerce sites.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense why you guys would want to lean in on both the B2B and B2C side on content and storytelling. Because you guys are, it's a fully managed services solution you guys provide at the corporate side, but also even just on the personal side, like it's still, it's an investment that, we make ourselves in our health, right? And there's, the price point to that. So I can see why you guys want to focus there. We'd love to have the conversation with you guys about how we can help in telling your story. But, in the meantime, like, I get why you're trying to get that better experience to the people who are coming, to the web store as well. You want to make sure you're making it easy for them and remove as much friction as possible in the buying process to get them to making that decision and earn that revenue metric. So would you say like, is it growing into a new market is a goal a year from now, or is it, an optimized, experience on the website that you're working towards? What would you say is like your North Star or something you'd want to celebrate a year from now?
Great question. And, kind of two different answers. Channels, on our e-commerce experience is really going to be focusing on, as more competition has come in, price points have been dropping. It's, I think the story is going to become more of how do we kind of maintain our level of our market share where we are today. And to do that is really be focusing on, as we were just kind of talking about, how do we really drive in on our conversion? And so, ensuring that our average, our ALV can increase as well as our conversion. And we've been doing that in terms of focusing on being more narrow in our digital efforts. So when we are thinking about the traffic we want to capture, not being as broad and our targeting and being more narrow and trying to capture that customer higher up in the funnel in the consideration period, and then how do we drive them through that brand story versus trying to focus so much on the lower funnel. So there's a lot of transactional value there, but at a premium price, it's really trying to capture them a little bit higher and driving through there. On the on our B2B side, it's I would say it's the same as we've invested a lot over the last 3 years to grow get involved in building up these markets. And I think now where we are is time to really just lean in on the markets that we have and really start maturing these. So, we're not looking to expand to additional markets, but really just how do we maximize and ensure the markets we have. And the way we're doing that is just, it's creating the lead opportunities for our salespeople to get people into our space, allow them to see it and feel it, uh, and grow it that way.
Gotcha. So it's like we wrap things up here. I want to give the opportunity, our listeners don't know where your locations are. I don't know where they are. So, feel free to let them know what markets you guys are currently in. So that way, if people are listing that are nearby those areas, they can come check you guys out.
Also, you can always find us on Vari.com or on our Amazon stores. We are headquartered in Coppell, Texas. So, and in addition to that, I'm not going to remember every single one. You put me in the spot here, but go to on Vari.com. We have a map of all our different locations, but we definitely kind of our big cities that we are really expanding and growing quickly is, in the DC area, Phoenix, Tampa, Austin, Houston are some of our sister cities, but have a growth there as well too. Nashville is a hot city for us, Kansas City as well. So, again, these markets where we're seeing a lot of concentrated growth over the last couple of years is where we're really putting some focus on. But you can find the full list there on Vari.com as well.
Very cool. I love it. Anywhere else people can find you or even you individually, what's the best way people get a hold of you if they want to have a conversation?
Yeah, so you can find me on LinkedIn. Honestly, it's under at Snyder. I think / Amazon. So I'm very engaged and involved with everybody on LinkedIn. It's a great community to connect, and always happy to connect with new people and network. And always glad to just jump on a call and talk digital marketing or Amazon specifically. So feel free to reach out there.
Yeah, we'll make sure to include the links to your information and the locations and in the description and the bio. I definitely feel like I've learned a lot about what you guys have going on at Vari Desk from the e-commerce perspective and trying to maintain that level of market share. Seems to be the key focus there, and continue to drive the conversion and obviously opportunities. And then on the corporate side, getting people to your locations is what I'm hearing is such a great way for them to kind of test and see the product and validate this is something that they could get down with, but also at the same time ensure that the level of services that you provide are what they actually need for how they're growing and scaling and trying to innovate their workforce. So it sounds like there's a lot of great things happening there at Vari Desk.
It's great times. It's been a fun ride over the last 6 years, and I really feel like some of honestly the best years are ahead of us, and we are well positioned with where I feel like the office industry is going and where Workspace is going. I think Vari has a great solution, and excited for the business opportunities we have ahead of us.
You got it. Well, everyone go check them out at Vari.com. Matt, thank you so much for your time today. It was really nice meeting you, and I appreciate the conversation, you guys telling your story. Again, I definitely feel like I've learned a lot about what you guys have going on and about yourself as well. So I appreciate you being here.
You're welcome, Max. Really appreciate it. Enjoyed the conversation, and thanks for the opportunity.
You bet. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks for listening. Take care. Cheers.